baby. Mm. Are we so confused about what this is? We absolutely have been. Okay, so it's 2012, 2013. I have experienced my awakening. And I have a friend, this girl that I used to go to high school with. Yeah, I forgot about that. We went to high school together, and she reaches out to me when I'm in Cali. We just end up having this conversation about religion and life. And, we are just so amazed by the things that we've discovered about ourselves and things like that. And so then she tells me, she's like, you know what, Dayla? I wanted to tell you that you're an empath. And I was like, what? What's that? She was like, I'm going to send you this information and you let me know. So she sends me, like, it must have been like back then, it was not a lot of information about what an empath was. So it might have been one or two blogs about it. And I just completely, like, I went into an entire other level of awakening once I started reading about what an empath is. All my life,
I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy. I had to fight my uncles. I had to fight my brothers. But I never thought I had to fight in my own house.
I had been searching for the reason on why I was so sensitive and why I could feel everything so I mean my entire life I always wondered, like, what's wrong with me? Like, no one ever talks about this. I can't share it with anyone. What is wrong with me? Why do I feel everything so deeply? How come I know things that I don't want to know? Like, I would literally be 13, 14 years old trying to figure out how you guys, please forgive me if these let me talk to the flies right quick. Okay. So I would be 13, 12, 13, 14 years old, like all these years trying to find out why I could like be with my friends and I would be happy. I would be excited. Maybe something just happened. Maybe I just got a new opportunity and I just know I'm so happy. And then I would go home, and whether I'm sitting by myself or I'm just sitting there with maybe a friend that came over, but just a change in the environment, and all of a sudden I would start feeling all these feelings like depression and sadness and anger. And it got to the point where this was happening so much. I mean, I remember me being 7 years old, 10 years old, to the point where when I got to about 13, 14, I really came up with this philosophy that something is wrong with me. Or I started thinking, like, I started to really question myself and like if these feelings really belong to me. And then if so, I mean, if not, how could they not belong to me, but I'm feeling them? But I just really started to be like, there's a pattern when I'm around people and then I'm leaving them, and only thing I could think of, I'm like, I know I'm happy. I'm like, I'm happy. I'll be like, oh yes, I'm good. I'm in love. Like, what's the reason why you're happy? Because you're also feeling mad and sad. So where is this coming from? So just so much confusion, y'all. I was like, oh my goodness. I was thanking her. I was like, thank you so much. You have no idea how how long I've been looking for this. It really helped me to understand myself more. I feel like I went into another level of my awakening then. And it was really beautiful. It was so beautiful. It wasn't a lot of people talking about it. It wasn't trendy to be an empath. So I was just able to really coast in learning myself and not getting a bunch of like different opinions. Here we are today, now in 2024, at the time that I'm recording this video. And you guys, we done took this term empath and we done turned it into something like so many terms that it's just really not what that thing really is. We really have like stamped this thing. I mean, everybody, everywhere you turn, everybody is an empath. Anybody who's just a little irritated or introverts, or, like people who just really like to stay to themselves, people who love their own company, Scorpios, Everybody's just like, oh yes, I'm an empath. Oh, I didn't like that. I'm an empath. Okay. Let's comb through this. Let's get some clarification going, okay? I think there's really just this one big myth about or misconception um, about being an empath, and that is that you are an empath if you are irritated. Okay, I should elaborate on what I mean by irritated. When you're someone who, you don't like people to like just come over without calling, or if it's just about like, phone calls kind of give you anxiety because you're just kind of like caught off guard. Those kind of things, if that is what you're basing you being an empath off of, is the phone calls and the not vibing with the spontaneous pop-ups, I would actually say that you're just a normal human being. Or I would even say that you're a human being that grew up in America, because that's our culture. We don't do a lot of like closeness and like having people come over without calling and things like that. But if that's what you're basing your definition or your diagnosis of being an empath off of, that's not good enough. This is what people don't talk about. When it comes to being an empath, people don't talk about how hard it is to be an empath. Being an empath, or the phenomenon of this thing, it really reminds me of um how people look at like being a reader or a channeler or psychics. It's like this thing where if that's your vibe, if you're not afraid of that thing and you're open to that, then people really want that. Like you like, oh yes, like I need to find out how to channel. I want to tap in. I want to hear da 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 da. I want to be a reader. I want to be a psychic. But people don't understand that when you are a reader, when you are a psychic, your life is very, very hard. We're talking about you constantly receiving messages. Don't let you be a seer who can see the dead. Because if that's the case, you're like one of my homegirls, one of my closest, my galactic sis. This girl she sees dead people all the time. So she don't even go to hospitals no more to visit family or anything, because dead people literally come home with her. That's not an easy life. Now, that's just that one thing. If you don't believe in this kind of thing, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you just don't know about this. But but that's a thing. And even if you're not a person who actually, a reader or a psychic, whatever term you want to put on it, who sees the dead, just receiving messages all the time, going places, and if you're like myself, then you can hear people's thoughts and you don't know when that's going to happen. So the protection that I have to do upon myself just to leave my house so that I don't feel everybody's energy, in order for me to leave my home and not have a panic attack and not have extreme anxiety, I have to do this whole protection thing. I have to be so careful about my peace, about who I'm around, all this kind of stuff. It's a very intentional life. And a lot of people like myself who didn't grow up knowing about this, whose parents didn't teach them about this, you kind of have to figure it out yourself. So you go through a lot of trials and tribulations, not really realizing that you're out here being an empath or a reader, and you're picking up energy very strongly. That kind of leads me into me saying what an empath is. I made a video about empaths like 7 years ago, and I feel like that was like for the level that we were on, the level of our collective at that time. Let's just go right into it. If you are an empath, you are a psychic. You are a psychic. A synonym for empath is psychicry. And you are an empath if you are a psychic, and you are a psychic if you are an empath. My closest friends just so happen to be channelers and readers. So I know this to be factual, and we talk about this all the time, and how without the assumptions and the trend topic of being an empath, it's just simply being a psychic. You're just a sensitive person that can feel. And when you break down what a psychic is someone who can feel, if not see and literally visualize things that are going on with you. There's a huge misconception about psychics, and I'm going to have to do another video on that. But psychics aren't always, and not even specifically for the future, to tell the future. Psychics will tell you about what's going on in your life right now, what you're experiencing, what you experience in another life, different loved ones that have messages. There's so many levels to psychicry. It's not always just about your future, and really is not about your future at all, because there is no future. Humans, we do this thing. Y'all see me say this in almost every video. We do this thing where we categorize things and we compartmentalize things, and that makes everything be so separate. You're not separate from God. You're not separate from me. That's why telepathy is a thing. That's why we can telepathically communicate with each other. It's because we were never separate in the first place. We are not separate from our earth, from earth and nature and all these different things. That's why it looks like us. That's why most of our body is filled with water, because we're not separate from any of these things. A good example that I like to give is like school. The way that we have separated math from science when it's really the same thing, or art from dance and choir when it's really the same thing. It really stagnates us. It really pulls us back from understanding who we really are and what we're really doing here. When you're trying to understand if you're an empath or not, don't compartmentalize what this thing is. It's really simple. It means that your sixth sense is open. That's what sensitivity means. And it means that you can literally feel or see what an individual is going through. That's it. We just created these topics and separated them because we feel like we have to do that in order to understand things. Or I should say, at one point in time, we really did. But we are expanding. We are growing into this time and space where we no longer need to compartmentalize and break everything down in all these different fragments when everything is really just one. If y'all see me sweating, it's because I am. And I don't want to turn my fan on so that my mic will work. You see how I be, you see how I come through for y'all. Like, I'm sitting here sweating to do this video. If you feeling me in this hard work and dedication, share this video and hit that thumbs up button. But okay, so the way that I break this down the easiest is that when you are an empath, you have empathy. When you are not an empath, you have sympathy. Okay, look these definitions up if you don't know them. When you have empathy for someone in their situation, you can literally feel, it's like you go through that thing with them. And I think this is the biggest difference between people who confuse being an empath with, like, because they don't like to get phone calls or they don't like to be interrupted and things like that. I think this is the biggest difference, because when you hear someone's story, whether it's about an animal or an individual, it's not a light story to you. You might even feel that person's story more than they feel it. Like, they would have probably already moved on from it or didn't even cry from it, and you might hear it and actually start to have emotions about it. That is because you are an empath. You feel things so deeply that you literally know what's happening next. You literally know what's going on. Empaths cannot be lied to. And I feel like because we're so caught up on everybody want to be an empath and we want to be like, can't nobody lie to me? You can't play me. It's like all of this ego with it. But baby, you lying to yourself. Like, you definitely can be lied to. Like, because you calling yourself an empath and you're not. Okay. If you are unevolved, then you might know when someone is lying, but you're still questioning yourself because you don't really understand what an empath means. You don't understand that an empath means psychic. If you are an empath, you are psychic. If you are a psychic, you definitely are an empath. You cannot be a psychic without being an empath, because psychics are sensitive to the vibrations around them. I'm literally breaking down to you how a psychic sees. How a psychic knows is because of the vibrations that we are sensitive to. Now, I don't really call myself a psychic or a reader. I really don't like labels. If I could just be called, then I would love that. If people could just start calling me, I would. I love that. That's how much I don't want to be under a label. Okay. But I love my name, Daylight. Shout out to my dad for giving me Daylight. Thank you, Daddy. So trust me. I'm going to see if I can find any of my old posts and share them. Maybe I'll share them in this video. About my struggle being an empath. It is not a fun life. It can be. It can be. And for a long time, for many years, when the term empath was first, being put on the map, people were calling it a curse. They were finally able to put a name to what they had been experiencing their whole life, like myself, and they were like, "Oh, being an empath is a curse." Absolutely, people will be like, "It's a blessing and a curse." It's not a curse. It's definitely not a curse, but sometimes it feels like one. Sometimes this is what I know to be a fact. When you have not elevated, when you are an unelevated empath, that's a good one. When you are an unelevated empath, you're going to feel like being an empath is such a struggle, and it is not even that you're going to feel it, but it's going to be really, really hard for you, and you are going to find yourself in a lot of challenges and feeling like you don't want to be on earth, and having these really deep, like, introspective thoughts about, like, why are you even here, and like just how hard it is to exist in a place where you feel stuff so deeply around so many people who don't. Because the truth is that the majority of the world are not empaths. What Source has made it very clear to me is that I'm sharing these messages for people that are supposed to see them. And that could mean that you're watching this to find out that you're really not an empath, or you're watching this to find out that you are an empath. But most people, if you were to put us all in a pool, and the majority of us who are calling ourselves empaths, we're really not. So when you are not an empath and you have sympathy instead of empathy for people, you kind of come off really cold sometimes. People might not think that you have a lot of, like, feelings a little bit. They might say you're kind of nonchalant, kind of, Even if you have understanding, you can be a non-empath and still have great discernment and understanding, and still care. Not being an empath doesn't mean that you don't have compassion. It doesn't mean that you don't care. So you can still care, you can still have compassion, but it just means that you can hear someone's story and you might be like, damn, dang, like, that's deep. Like, I want to help you. Like, how can I help you? You might still care, but when you're an empath, oh, you going to sleep thinking about that situation tonight. You probably think about the situation next week. You probably cried whenever they told you about it, and you probably end up having a whole thing. You can go through a depression yourself just based on someone else's story, just based on what you know that someone else experienced. You see the difference here? It's a big difference. It really should not be any confusion. We're so confused about it because the ego is involved. We want to be something that we don't even understand the depths of what it takes to really live a life of an empath. Like, empaths are the light workers and healers of the world. You know that you're an empath if you were a child and you were extremely sensitive. If you were called sensitive, if you were called dramatic, if you would have had situations like seeing an animal dying, something like a cricket, or just something that doesn't even seem like a big deal. And if you were the one that was like making it a big deal, you're an empath. You are an empath. Two flies in my video right now. I'm in Africa, y'all. That's all I gotta say. I'm in Africa. Like, this is why my net stays up. Between these few months of the summer, the flies be coming in through the concrete. I don't know how they get in my house. Please, we had a conversation. Please, you guys, can you stay out of the video, please? Oh my God. Okay, so you can be a non-empath and still have compassion. That looks like someone telling you their story and you're hearing it, you're seeing it, you're observing it. You may even go as far to understand it. Some people, yeah, like, a lot of people can still understand someone's story and not be an empath. But again, if you are an empath, baby, even if you heard it, you felt it. Even if you seen it, you felt it. You may have an understanding as a non-empath, but you have more of a disconnected understanding. where you still are like, oh, okay, how can I, but it's a disconnected understanding versus an empath is like, I gotta do what I gotta do. And this is normally an uninvolved, I mean an unevolved empath as well. Because once you are an evolved empath, you learn that even though you have these feelings, you understand where these feelings are coming from. You understand that these feelings are coming because you are an empath. You understand that you're feeling this person's feelings, which is why it feels like you want to get them the clothes off your back and do all this stuff. But you understand now that you are only feeling that way because you are a psychic, because you're an empath. A lot of you empaths are the people in your groups of circles who happen to know things, and everyone's like, man, you right. You always right. Oh my goodness. Like, how you know that was about to happen? Because you're psychic. You're psychic. Okay, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please thumbs up this video. Please share this video. Now, hold on. Even if you didn't enjoy this video, share this video so that we can stop with the chaos about everybody being an empath. Baby, you might not be an empath. This is not a badge of honor, okay? Being an empath is not a stripe in life. Surviving it might be. Now, if you can coast and if you can get on that level to being an evolved empath, which is an individual who is just feels everything so deeply, but you're still able to live in your power, you're still able to stand up for yourself, you're able to control and harness your powers. And I love that I'm getting ringing in my ears right now because it's probably source. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate you. If you are still watching this video, I love you so much. Until next time, peace out.
I see you in the moonlight dancing, yeah. Only need one chance, girl, right here. One night stand, please don't have fear.